Hi, thank you for having me.
Your latest book, She's Having Her Baby. Can you tell us a bit about it?
So She's Having Her Baby is about Georgie and Nina. So Georgie is our main character, and she is very upfront about the fact that she never ever wants to have a baby, and there's no sort of sad story about why she doesn't want to have a baby. She's just not interested. It's not something that has ever occurred to her. She's never felt that urge, I suppose. Nina, on the other hand, her best friend, is quite desperate to have a baby. She has been trying for a long time, and she feels like she's tried every avenue available to her, and it's causing a bit of strain with her relationship, within her relationship with her husband, Matt. One drunken evening, Georgie and Nina are singing karaoke, then they go to a bar, and Nina blurts out, "I really want to have a baby. The only way I can see it happening is if someone becomes a surrogate for me, and you're the only person I can ask, Georgie." And Georgie thinks, insert expletive here, I'm not sure if I can do that, and then thinks about all the reasons why she can't and how superficial they seem in the grand scheme of things, and agrees to go for it. And that's where our book begins. And it goes from there, and it's about the complexity of motherhood and infertility, and that question of when parenting really begins, and it's about female friendship also.
George thinks some people just don't want to have a baby, just like some people just really, really want to have a baby. Have you found this to be true? I think especially as people get older, do you think that changes?
I think that's a really interesting question, and it's one of the things that comes up in the book, that idea of being quite steadfast and adamant, that no, I'm not interested in this is not where I see my life going. And then the idea that changing your mind is sort of not allowed. And I think that's really unfair, because life is really long, like you have ideas when you're 20 that you don't have at 30 or 40 or 50, and that's a good thing, you're meant to change your mind. But I also think that some people just, simply are not interested in becoming a parent, and I think that's fine. But I do think that we should cut people some slack if they do decide, to change their mind later on. I have always said, I only ever want one child. And I have that child. I'm very grateful for her and I love her, but I might decide to change my mind one day, and I hope that people wouldn't be saying to me, well, you told me that you only wanted to have one child, so how dare you go and change your mind like this. But I think that as people get older, maybe they are more inclined to change their mind for a wide range of different reasons, and certainly that's something that's explored in the book.
You've definitely hit on an important point there. It's like once you've made up your mind, it feels like you can't change. You absolutely have to go down that road, especially if it's career versus family. And in the book you talk about the fear of being replaced by younger staff, whether you have kids or not. How hard is it, do you think, for a woman compared to a man to sustain a long, successful career?
I think it's really hard because of the expectation that women are naturally better carers, and which I just think is totally untrue, and that women are somehow should have much more responsibility for their children. I hear of men referring to looking after their children as babysitting, which constantly annoys me, and I make a point to say something every single time. It's not babysitting when it's your own child. But I do think it is much more important for women to really stand up and say this is not right. And it's not just I loved Annabelle Crabb's book, The Wife Drought, which is about this exact problem. So it's not just a female problem, it's a problem for men as well, because the idea that they shouldn't be, wholly involved in raising their own children is just fiction. You know, it's so silly, and it means that they miss out, and it means that women miss out. So the problem is, you know, totally, it's both structural and, you know, the sort of insidious sexism that, you know, that pervades society, and, you know, the way we talk to each other and all that sort of thing, that, you know, our expectations of people. So that's a huge problem, you know. So a lot of those structural sexism problems have been solved, and it's really only the you know, the more abstract notions that need to be overcome now. But I think it's so much harder for women, you know, because you're thinking of things like, you know, you've always got something in the back of your mind. It's like, okay, so it's childcare this day, or, you know, the school run, or it's this, or it's that. You know, my editor was talking to me yesterday. She's going on a work trip, and, you know, she was saying, I'm so envious of my husband, because when he goes on a work trip, he just goes to the airport and he checks in and he has a drink. But I am going on this work trip for 3 days, and I'm thinking, okay, how many scoops of formula, you know, do I have to leave? You know, what do I do? You know, it's all these extra things that you're juggling on top of a career. Whereas for a lot of men, it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to work and then I'm coming home, and that's my life. And I just think, you know, little by little, that is changing, but it needs to happen faster, and it needs to happen with to a greater degree. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're holding on to these juxtapositions of these roles. We've taken some from over here and some from over there. We've not really let go of anything.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's it just is so outdated, and, you know, I don't feel like it reflects the people that we are anymore. You know, like, I see so many great dads, you know, even the ones who say that they're babysitting, you know, they're great dads, and they are invested and they are involved. But, you know, it's up to workplaces and, you know, and the government as well to say, you know, we value parents and we value children, and, you know, the benefits of valuing, you know, families is massive. And, you know, here is how we can help, you know, foster those relationships and also get people back into the workplace, which is also hugely beneficial. It's, yeah, there's a long way to go. Absolutely.
One of the things I liked most about the book was the friendship between Nina and George. It was just awesome. They're clearly the best of friends. What's the craziest thing that you've done for a friend?
Oh my God. Okay, well, I wore a onesie in public for a friend fairly recently. You know, like an animal, onesie. And also performed this song where I substituted lyrics about the friend, you know, for the real lyrics, also in public. That was pretty crazy. And
that one's pretty full.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. There could be more, but yeah, I think that's pretty crazy.
How much of the book has come from real life inspiration?
I think that is a question that I'm going to get again and again with this book. So Georgie is, you know, a young woman who works in a magazine. I'm also a young woman who works in a magazine. So, you know, I feel like people will read a lot into that. In terms of, you know, the surrogacy plotline, the genesis of that was when I had a baby, I kept going to these mothers groups meetings, which were just, you know, so wonderful and amazing. And, you know, everyone starts telling their story about, you know, becoming pregnant and their pregnancy and that sort of thing. And it just became increasingly clear that my story, you know, of just not really putting too much effort, I suppose, into getting pregnant, was sort of an anomaly in that crowd. And, you know, there were so many women who had talked about struggling for a long time and, you know, being just about to start IVF, or, you know, going through rounds and rounds of it, or, you know, looking at other assisted reproduction techniques, and, you know, looking into like adoption and foster and, you know, all these sorts of things. And I just started to think about how difficult that would be to cope with, you know, to constantly, you know, to want something so much, but to constantly come up against roadblocks and, you know, not really having a clear way, you know, to solve the problem. And I just started to think about how awful and sad that would be, and, you know, how much of a struggle it would be. And then I started thinking about, well, you know, if that was someone who was really close to me, you know, how far would I be prepared to go to help that person? Or, you know, how would I, you know, try to support them? And that's sort of where Georgie and Nina's relationship came from. Georgie starts thinking about those things for Nina.
Thanks, Lauren, for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
You can get Lauren's book, She's Having Her Baby,